Welcome back for another video. 54 points and a fairly disappointing blank game week before the break. Mukiele did make the Sunderland squad, didn't come off the bench, so just 10 players. Dango with an unexpected bench and really frustrating, and Ekatike also benched, just a 1 point cameo from him and Dango. The two highlights really just being Captain Bruno, who came away with his 11th double-digit return of the season, and Wilson scoring as well. Though Wilson obviously had to come in for the injured Salah, so that only made that Salah punt worse, who I brought in for that Spurs home fixture a couple of weeks ago, but at least Wilson scored. Fulham's 3.2 expected goals against Burnley was more than any team. It was what we expected really. Burnley remained the team to target. The most captain player was Haaland, which I guess shows the number of inactive teams at this point in the season. There must be several million. Double Gameweek 33 is confirmed following the FA Cup games last weekend. The 6 teams doubling are Bournemouth, Brighton, Burnley, Chelsea, Leeds and Man City. I was very set on wildcarding in Gameweek 32. I almost used it at the start of the break, but that was under the assumption that Arsenal were to knock Southampton out, since that would have made wildcard 32 really obvious to me, given that you'd go with triple Arsenal, triple City, probably triple Chelsea and then 2 or 3 from the other teams that double besides Burnley. I think chip strategy is wide open now, which is arguably a good thing as well, right? Obviously, it's always team-dependent chip strategy, and I'll talk about where I'm at in a minute. Some of you have already used more chips than me as well, obviously, and some of you have still got all 4 chips, which I don't. I used the triple captain already. We'll be chatting to world number 1 Eric tomorrow to see where he's at with his team and strategy as well. But let's get into the team for Gameweek 32. Before we get into the video, I've just got this powder drink, and it's unbelievable. You guys need to try this. Holy Energy. 0 sugar, no aspartame, natural flavours. And it comes in this awesome box, and each little box contains a ton of little sachets. So pick the flavour you want, just rip the corner off, pour it in, give it a shake, and it's done. It tastes better than other soft drinks and energy drinks out there, and it's significantly cheaper. I'm talking like 50p for a 500ml drink. I recommend getting the starter set since it has a massive variety of flavours of energy, hydration and iced tea, and then you've got everything. You can work out your favourites. Go to uk.holy.com/focal, that link is down below. They're doing £10 off the starter set currently as well, so start there if you haven't drank it before, and on top of that, Focal 5 gets you £5 off your first order. And I've just tested it and you can actually stack those 2 discounts on top of each other. Focal 5 is the code, click the link below to take advantage. Absolute game changer. So onto the team then. Starting in goal and the back 3, it's Raya, Gabriel, O'Reilly and Van Dijk. Raya was sensational in the Champions League as Arsenal edged a 1-0 win away against Sporting. They were unbeaten in 23 games at home before that, 17 wins in a row they were on. Only 0.71 XG conceded for Arsenal. After losing the League Cup final and then dropping out the FA Cup, Arsenal really are fighting on the 2 fronts now. Every game is crucial at this stage. Gabriel started on Tuesday night, having recovered from that knock he'd picked up in the FA Cup, which forced the early sub and some ice on his knee on the bench, so he should be in line for a start home to Bournemouth. Last time that I went to this fixture, I literally just sat down at my seat. I tweeted, "Come on you Gunners," or something like that. I doubled Arsenal defence in my FPL team as well. I looked up and Bournemouth had put the ball in our net after 11 seconds. I wonder what position FPL classify O'Reilly as next season. Overall, he has played left back the most, 20 times in the league this season. That's been his most popular position. However, obviously recently we've seen Pep using him in midfield, and that's where he's really excelled lately. Obviously came away with that brace in the League Cup final to win it for City. So yeah, I expect he's going to appear in many wildcards this week, along with Semenyo and Haaland most likely. It's a choice between O'Reilly with Chelsea away or Mukiele of Spurs home in my starting 11. We'll surely see some kind of bounce from Spurs with De Zerbi now in charge, and given O'Reilly's upside if he plays in midfield, I've gone with him in the starting 11. And lastly, Van Dijk playing home to Fulham. Starting to feel like Slot is very much on borrowed time, unless Liverpool manage to win the Champions League, which is incredibly unlikely in my opinion. That's 2 losses on the bounce now in all comps, 4-0 to City, and it was 2-1 to Brighton before the break. I'm recording this before Liverpool play PSG in the Champions League. For those on the free hit 33 chip strategy, Van Dijk is still handy given that he plays home this week, and in Gameweek 34 he's home to Palace. Arsenal top of the Gameweek 32 clean sheet odds, given a 44% chance. Second place is Man United, 36% this week. And then it's Liverpool, West Ham and Brighton, all tied on 34%. In midfield it's Tavernier and Bumo, Bruno, Dango and Wilson. The midfield feels a little bit weak, but obviously can address that partially using up a free transfer. Tavernier probably dropping to the bench or being sold given the fixture this week. My best guess is that Dango comes back into the starting 11 for Brentford. It made no sense to me that he was benched, having been their best player literally the game before against Wolves. Like, deservedly came away with maximum bonus that match, despite just the 1 assist in a 2-2 draw. Assuming Dango starts, then he's one of the few reasons that I like the idea of saving the wildcard this week. Plus, players like Raya, Gabriel, Bruno and Bumo that you potentially wouldn't have on a wildcard. I think I would have Bruno regardless, but there's some others that have good fixtures this week in my team that I'd probably sell on a wildcard. Man United are home to Leeds. They could be missing a couple of key players. Stack and Rodon both forced off injured in their FA Cup win over West Ham. I'll run through my chip strategy for the rest of the season in a second. So yeah, Bruno gets the armband. He's the obvious choice, with more double-digit returns than anyone this season now. 19.43 XGI can only be bettered by Haaland. 24 big chances created now is 9 more than any player. So yeah, he's been unbelievable to state the obvious. And Bumo, not so much as of late though. 9 goals, 3 assists, not bad this season so far. Though he's not scored since Gameweek 25, 7 games ago. And he's blanked in his last 4 games in a row. And his minutes have been on the decline as well as a consequence. He had 85 minutes, and then 76, then 74, and then 70 last game. Meanwhile, Šeško's having a real impact off the bench, with goals in 3 of his last 4 games coming off the bench, and he's taken a claim for a start. That's not necessarily in Mbumo's place, of course. It could be Ahmad, for example, but could really do with Mbumo starting and delivering this game, given that I'm unlikely to use a chip in blank Gameweek 34, where Mbumo would be needed. If Fulham do score at Anfield, then hopefully Wilson's involved, given it's attacker versus defender. It's 5 years since Fulham last won at Anfield in any competition, but they've got a genuine shot on current form. And then up front it's Ekitike and Thiago. Liverpool fans, let us know in the comments, what do you make of Ekitike's minutes this game week? I mean, it's either a start and an early sub, or bench and then comes on most likely. Obviously Isak's back in training as well, maybe not ready to start a game. Like, even when Isak was out injured, we did see Slot occasionally line up with Gakpo up top. I'll talk through transfer plans in a minute. And Thiago completes the 11 playing home to Everton. 1 short of a 20 goal campaign in the league. Crazy output, having started the season at 6 million as well. So the bench is Dubravka, Mukiele, Anderson and Mane. 1 free transfer, but 9.7 million in the bank, so I can afford every move in the game basically. I think I'm going to rule out Tavernier to Salah though, even though it doesn't look too bad. I just don't think I can put myself through that again. The plan is to try and get a read on Ekitike's minutes first of all. If I feel that he's got a good chance of starting, the plan is going to be Mane to Bowen, and then I drop Tavernier to the bench. If Ekitike feels like he could be a major benching risk, then I could just bench him and start one of Tavernier or Mukiele, because Ekitike could still be handy in blank Gameweek 34, so that would be a reason to keep him and just bench. The problem is, Liverpool have got Fulham home, which is sandwiched in between 2 ties against PSG in the Champions League. Like, many fans are already calling for Slot out on recent form, and if PSG knock them out, then there's nothing left to play for this season besides the Champions League place, so top 5. So it's hard to get a read of what Slot will do. Like, Ekitike started last weekend against Man City, so it's a huge number of games for him to start in a row. Maybe he starts versus PSG and then against Fulham, and then he gets benched in the second leg in favour of Isak. So yeah, it's looking like Mane to Bowen. In terms of chip strategy then, there's 2 paths that I like. Option 1 is you wildcard now, bench boost in 33 and free hit in blank Gameweek 34. And the option 2 is to free hit in Gameweek 33 in the double, wildcard in 35 and then bench boost straight away in 36. Both of these have got pros and cons. So the first chip strategy means you're selling some potentially great players for this week, like Raya, Gabriel, and Bumo, Dango, Ekitike, Thiago. They could be great this week, and you'd be looking at wildcarding most of those out, if not all. However, wildcarding now does allow for the best possible bench boost in any remaining game week, double game week 33, given that you'd load up on double game week players, and then you have to free hit in game week 34 on that strategy to navigate the blank. So the other path does allow you to have the best possible start in 11 in double Gameweek 33 using the free hit, but it means a weaker team in blank Gameweek 34 with no chip used. Now, Arsenal getting knocked out of the FA Cup does make this more viable since they play Newcastle home that week. And in terms of Palace, so they've still got a double game week to come, and by far the likeliest week is Gameweek 36. They would double with Man City. So the plan would be to wildcard in Gameweek 35 just before. We'll know by then where the double is and expect it to be in Gameweek 36, as I say, and the bench boost will go in Gameweek 36. It's not the best bench boost, so that's another trade-off there, but it does allow me to own triple Palace, so probably Henderson, Munoz and Sarr. I'd also have a couple of bank transfers to basically fade those Palace assets afterwards, because they're really only of interest for the double game week. They've got some bad fixtures around it. If Palace progress in Europa, that does obviously weaken the strategy a bit, because Glasner might opt to rotate any of those three in the league. Henderson is safe still probably. But given it's the end of Glasner at Palace, he's surely going to be desperate to win the Europa Conference League and go out with a bang. And then if that's the case, the league is basically irrelevant. They're 10 points above safety currently. So neither strategy is perfect and is team dependent. Given that I've only got one free transfer this week, it's impossible for me to own 3 Palace for their double game week if I wildcard now. There aren't enough rolled transfers to get there, so I'd be looking at hits. If I make the Bowen transfer this week and then free hit in 33 and roll in game week 34, I can still play 11 players in 34 and potentially have 1 player for bench depth. I should in theory be able to roll after wildcard 35 as well. So basically what I'm saying is I would have 3 free transfers for the final 2 game weeks, game week 37 and game week 38. So that feels stronger in my position. Lastly, let's take a quick look at the team of the week from FPL.page for game week 32 using FPL review projections for the best team basically. This week it's Verbruggen, Gabriel, Van Heck, Wan-Bissaka, Bruno, Cunha, Salah, Rice, Szoboszlai, Bowen and Thiago. So this week I'll actually just have the 4 players if I do make that Bowen move, which is the plan as I say. But I'm going to wait until Friday after all the midweek games are played and the press conferences are complete. Don't forget to check out Holy Energy to stack those discounts. There's a link below, uk.holy.com/focal, and the code FOCAL5 gets you an extra £5 off. See you soon for the next one.